Ever feel like you're on this crazy roller coaster of, thoughts and feelings and just like experiences in general?
Oh, yeah.
Well, get ready because this deep dive into the Ashtavakra Gita might permanently change how you look at that whole ride.
Yeah. I'm excited for this one.
This ancient text, it's laser focused, like completely on this idea of self-realization. Have you ever read anything quite like it?
It's really unique. There are other texts out there that touch on similar ideas,
Yeah.
but the Ashtavakra Gita, it's like it cuts straight to the chase.
Yeah.
No fluff.
Yeah.
Just straight to the heart of self-realization.
That's a really good way to put it. And it's written as this dialogue between a sage, Ashtavakra, and then King Janaka.
Right.
Which, honestly, it's kind of like we're eavesdropping on this really fascinating conversation between these two friends who both have this incredibly deep understanding of themselves.
Yeah, it's a really cool format. It feels very intimate and personal, like you're right there in the conversation with them.
Yeah, and you get the sense that they're not just talking about these ideas in theory, but they've actually lived them,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It comes through so clearly
Yeah.
that this is coming from their own direct experience. It's not just intellectual theorizing.
Right. Which I think is what makes it so powerful.
Wow.
So let's dive into the heart of it, this idea of the self.
Okay.
Because the Gita is very clear that it's not about our physical bodies or, the thoughts that are constantly swirling in our minds. It's
Yeah.
not even the things that we go through in life. It's something deeper than that.
It's like the ground of being the foundation upon which all of those experiences rest. The Gita calls it pure awareness.
Pure awareness.
Yeah, think of a mirror for a second. The mirror reflects whatever's in front of it, but those reflections don't actually change the mirror itself.
Right.
So the Gita is suggesting that our true self is kind of like that mirror. It witnesses all of our experiences, but it remains untouched, unchanged by them.
Okay, so you're saying all the ups and downs, all the, worries and aspirations, all that stuff isn't actually us.
In essence, yes.
Whoa, that's a pretty radical concept.
It is radical.
I mean, when you really stop and think about
But
it.
imagine the implications for a second.
Yeah.
If we're not those fleeting thoughts and feelings, how does that change how we approach challenges?
Yeah.
How we see our place in the world?
It definitely puts things in a different light. And speaking of bending our minds a little bit, the Gita also makes a pretty bold statement about the nature of reality itself, right?
It does.
It's suggesting that the universe, as we typically experience it, is actually an illusion.
Exactly. And it uses these really vivid metaphors to help us grasp that.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued.
It compares it to a mirage, that shimmering image you see in the desert,
Right.
or a snake that appears to be in a rope, or even a really vivid dream.
So basically, we're misinterpreting what we're seeing, like, on a massive scale.
Yeah, like we're caught in this grand illusion of separation.
Okay, now hold on a second, because this is where I always stumble a bit.
Okay.
So if everything is an illusion, does that mean nothing we experience is actually real?
It's not about denying that we have experiences. It's more about recognizing that how we usually experience those things is filtered through this lens of a separate self, this idea of me versus the world.
Okay.
And because of that, we miss the bigger picture.
So it's like we're so caught up in the details of the dream that we forget that it's not real life.
Exactly.
And the Gita takes it even a step further because it suggests that even our feelings of limitation and ignorance are part of this illusion.
Yeah, that's a really mind-blowing concept.
Right. So if we're buying into this illusion of separation so completely, how do we ever break free?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
Well, the Gita does offer a way out, and it might seem paradoxical at first.
Go on. I'm all about paradoxes.
Well, the path to freedom, according to the Ashtavakra Gita, is about detaching from desires.
Detachment. I mean, at first glance, I'm thinking, okay, let go of material possessions, simplify your life. But I have a feeling the Gita is talking about something much deeper than that.
You're exactly right. It's not just about simplifying your external world. It's about detaching from all desire.
All desires.
Yeah. From those really intense cravings for pleasure to that deep thirst for knowledge, even the desire for liberation itself.
Wait, even the desire for liberation?
Yes.
But isn't that what this whole thing is about? Isn't that what this whole thing is about? Like, I thought that was the goal.
Right. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But that's the paradox that the Gita highlights. You see, even the pursuit of liberation can become this kind of subtle trap.
Okay, how so?
Because it reinforces this illusion that there's a separate me that needs to be liberated in the first place.
So it's like saying to escape this maze, you have to stop trying to escape.
Exactly. It's a real head scratcher. It requires this fundamental shift in perspective. Instead of striving towards some future state of freedom, the Gita is pointing us to this realization that this freedom is actually our true nature. It's always present, right here, right now. It's just hidden beneath these layers of, our conditioned thinking.
Okay, so let's say we do manage to let go of those desires to see through the illusion. What happens next? What does the Ashtavakra Gita say that life is actually like on the other side of that realization?
It paints a pretty vivid picture of this liberated state. It's described as a state of complete freedom. Freedom from suffering, freedom from that constant pull of desires, freedom from fear, even freedom from that cycle of birth and death.
Okay, sign me up for that. No more emotional roller coaster, freedom from fear. That sounds amazing.
Right.
But does the Gita offer any glimpses into what this actually feels like?
It does. There are these beautiful passages where King Janaka, remember he's speaking from his own experience here, describes his state of being after realizing this truth. He talks about experiencing this really profound sense of peace, this childlike wonder at the beauty of existence, this deep and abiding tranquility.
That's incredible. It's like the calm at the center of the storm.
Yes, exactly.
Which, let's face it, is a pretty stark contrast to how most of us experience life, right? It's like we're constantly being tossed around by our thoughts and emotions, reacting to every little thing.
It's a complete 180, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. So how do we even begin to bridge that gap?
Well, that leads us to another one of the Gita's essential teachings.
Yeah.
The concept of action in inaction.
Action in inaction. Okay, that sounds like another one of those paradoxes we were talking about earlier.
It is a paradox, but it points to a profound truth. The Gita is suggesting that even while we're seemingly engaged in the world, right, a liberated being acts without attachment, or this sense of being the doer of those actions.
So it's not about withdrawing from the world and, becoming some kind of hermit.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's more about an internal shift in how we relate to our actions.
Okay.
The actions themselves might be the same on the surface, but they're no longer driven by the ego's need to control everything or to achieve some specific outcome.
Do you have an example that might help make this idea of action in action a little more concrete? Because it's kind of a tricky one.
Sure. Imagine a skilled surfer riding a wave.
Okay.
They're fully engaged in the act of surfing, right? Making adjustments, responding to all the nuances of the wave.
Right.
But there's this sense of effortlessness to it. Like they're in harmony with these forces of nature.
Okay.
They're not trying to force the wave to do something that it doesn't want to do. They're moving in concert with it.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get a feel for this. So it's about surrendering to the flow of life, trusting that things are unfolding as they should, without our constant need to interfere and, trying to control everything.
Precisely. And imagine the sense of relief that comes with that realization. No more pressure to make things happen or to force outcomes that might not be in alignment with, the natural order of things.
Yeah, that does sound incredibly freeing.
It's about showing up fully present in each moment and acting from this place of inner clarity and peace.
That sounds really nice in theory, but to be totally honest, it also sounds a little bit daunting. I mean, how many of us can truly say that we ever feel that sense of freedom from this feeling of, I need to be in control here?
It's a process, for sure. And the Gita acknowledges that, there will be bumps along the road.
Yeah.
But it also reminds us that this state of freedom, this action in action, it's our true nature. It's always available to us if only we can learn to let go of the illusions that are obscuring it.
And that brings us to what might be the most challenging aspect of all of this idea that self-realization, this state of freedom that we've been talking about, it can't be attained through effort or intellectual understanding alone.
You hit the nail on the head there. This is where it gets really tricky for a lot of people.
Yeah, because our instinct, especially in the West, it's often to try harder, to analyze more, to find the right technique or the right practice that will finally get us what we want.
We love our to-do lists.
You do. But the Gita is suggesting a completely different approach.
It is. It's this invitation to let go of that, striving to surrender to the mystery of it all. Because it's in that surrender, in that space of simply being that the truth of who we really are can finally be revealed.
It's like we're hardwired for that doing, for figuring it all out.
Yeah, we want the instruction manual.
Right. But the Gita's over here whispering, let go of just trust the process, which can be kind of unnerving.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when we're so used to seeking tangible steps and techniques for almost everything.
Exactly. I can almost hear our listeners now. So if I can't try to reach the state of freedom, how on earth does it happen? What would the Ashtavakra Gita say to that?
I think it would probably respond with this really gentle invitation to surrender to just let go of that constant need to control. Because as we've been exploring, it's that very act of striving, of seeking, that keeps the illusion of a separate self firmly in place.
It's like the classic trying too hard scenario. The more tightly we grip, the more that sense of true freedom just slips away.
Exactly. It's like trying to hold on to water. The Gita reminds us that we already are that which we seek. It's not about becoming something different, but rather about uncovering the truth of who we are beneath all those layers, of conditioning and mistaken identity.
So it's more about shifting our focus from doing to being, from striving to just existing as the awareness that we already are.
Beautifully put. It's in that space of surrender, of allowing ourselves to just be, that the illusion starts to dissolve and our true nature can finally shine through.
It's interesting. We started this deep dive by talking about how direct and to the point the Ashtavakra Gita is.
Okay.
But here we are grappling with all these concepts that feel so nuanced and subtle.
It's the beautiful paradox of this text, isn't it? It cuts straight to the heart of the matter. But the path that it's illuminating is one of profound letting go, of surrendering to a truth that can't be grasped by the intellect alone.
And that brings us to what I think is one of the most striking moments in the entire Gita, King Janaka's final words. No more can be said.
Such a powerful statement, right? It speaks volumes about the limits of language when it comes to describing the ultimate truth of who we are.
It's like after all this profound wisdom, the conversation just ends on this note of silence.
In a way, yes. Because ultimately, the Gita is pointing to a reality that transcends words and concepts. It's an invitation to turn our attention inward, to explore that silent space within where all the answers already reside.
So it's in the silence and the stillness that we might finally discover what it means to be truly free. Wow. I don't know about you, but I need a moment to just sit with that.
As do we all, I think. And maybe that's the perfect note to end on.
It really is. A little something to contemplate as we resurface from this deep dive into the Ashtavakra Gita. If the universe is an illusion, as the Gita suggests, what does that mean for those experiences that we hold so dear, joy, love, connection? Are those also part of the illusion, or is there a deeper reality to them that transcends this world of appearances? We'll leave you with that question. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.